And what was your date of birth?
1925. But I was born raised in Faulkner, New York.
And do you remember Hugh Bedient at all?
Oh yeah, he had the gas station there.
Did he?
Yeah, he had a mobile gas station. We'd never seen asphalt before. They always had driveway. And he had a driveway put in, or the company put it in. And it was shiny and that, and it was in the winter, and it looked real slippery. I run like hell and slammed my sled on the ground and slid across that sled. It never went no place, but boy, I took skin off everything. I quit school when I was 16. I was in Kennedy, living in Kennedy with my grandparents. And then I got a job at Steel Petitions, and I lied my age. And they kept saying, "Where's your draft card?" And I said, I lost the doggone thing, so go up and get a new one. My buddy, George Prosser, oh, what a man. Boy, we were the best of friends. We worked together and stayed together in the service. Anyway, he was called up for a physical. He was going in the Army, and he told me, and I said, why? I took right off with him. I went and I volunteered and went in the same time he did. It was 2 weeks after my 18th birthday on February 19th, and I went to Buffalo and come back, and March 2nd was when we went to Buffalo, and March 9th we went in the Army, and I was there till I come out in 46. Fort Niagara, we got our clothes, and stuff at Fort Niagara. Then we went to
Indian Town Gap.
Yep, that's where we got our basic training. When we got in there, we thought we were going to be in a tank corps. Instead, we seen a land ship built there. We didn't know what the blazes it was. And we started taking military training. And from then on, they took us down to that ship, and we had to unload those boxes filled with sand and everything else. Take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on. Oh Lord! And so we didn't know what we're going to do. And that was basically what they were training us for. Then we went to Camp Anza, California, and we really got into the infantry training business. And it was scary. Yep, Wilmington, California. That's where all the ships and stuff were, where they were building them and the whole works. And we started working on them at stevedores. That's what they're training us for.
From there, you went to Camp Stoneman.
Yep.
In California, which ironically is named after General George Stoneman from Busta.
Yep, and the worst part of it was that was the worst thing I'd ever seen. I think we went to Pittsburgh, California with my friend and I. We got in there and we seen this black guy trying to hustle one of these Spanish girls or Mexican girls, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And she slapped him across the face, and blood come out his neck, and he starts going, look, making noises. She slit his throat. She had a razor blade between her fingers. Oh, yeah. And the next day we left, and I never was so glad to get out of any place in my life.
You probably assume he didn't make it.
I have no idea. The MPs come running right up, and the guy said, you see anything? I said, I seen that girl slap her. He said, what's your name? I turned around, and the sergeant was just coming for us. And he says, come on, boys, back to camp. And that was like pouring hot water down our back. We just couldn't wait to get out of there.
Boarded the West Point. Was it the USS West Point?
That's right. They'd taken everything out of it, and it was the most miserable, stinking trip you ever seen. We had to go downstairs to go to a mess hall.
Right. And
then going down, you'd smell diesel fuel and everything else, and guys throwing up, going down, you know, and getting sick. Oh, Lord Almighty. Sydney, Australia. When we came up, we looked up on the cliff up there, and here was a joey, which is a baby kangaroo, and a mother kangaroo waving flags. And that really floored us. We got into Sydney Harbor, and we stayed there, I can't remember how long. Then we headed for New Guinea.
Expect in New Guinea, what was...
Malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever. At that time I would run a jitney, a 6x truck. I wanted the winches. I wanted those because they made sergeant. I made PFC. PFC for being volunteers. I was the youngest guy in the outfit.
I bet.
Yep. I was the youngest one there. And for 3 years I made extra money by always betting on the guys bringing their driver's license out and might bringing mine. I'd make $5 or $10 doing it. 245th Port Company. always in the back of your head, you always had Piss Call Charlie come over. He was always looking. And it got, the first one, man, I'll tell you, I thought I was going to turn pale blue. I was so scared. I was scared of all of them, but that one there really was something. They had a 37 millimeter gun post, probably from here to the canal away from us. We were in a tent. That sucker went off, and when it went off, oh God Lord, I couldn't tell you where that Japanese was, but boy, oh boy, we dove in our foxholes, and it started raining, and that hole of mine was, I had another guy on top of me, I couldn't hardly breathe.
Every time?
Yeah, because during the day they'd shoot them down.
Right.
They had P-47s and P-51s.
Then you went to Goodenough Island?
Yep.
My God.
Yeah, that was a doozy. Man, that was the farthest I ever swam in my life. We looked out there and we could see this boat floating out there. And one of the guys climbed a palm tree to get coconuts. And he spotted it and he said, "Hey, look at there." There was a big rubber boat. And the guys all started. There was, I think, 14 or 15 of us. I dog paddled and I got on, laid on my back and swam. 3 of us got this thing and it had a Johnson motor in it. It had been from, I think, probably from a B-29 or not 29, but a B-25 or something that had been shot down. And we brought it back. We got into it, and the motor still had some gas in it. We brought it back, and it was an old Alto. Oh, God, Lord. Oh, man. You couldn't back the boat up because it would shut the engine off and go in reverse.
Wow.
We brought it back, and they came down from the engineers, and they took it, or thought they were, and we took the engine off and dropped it in the ocean out there, and we started cutting holes in the side of it and sinking it. Which was stupid, but we earned it, and they took it away from us.
So the idea was to go get it for your own self.
Oh yes, for the company, yeah. To have ourselves, we figured we could tip it over and use it for a diving platform, upside down.
But that didn't work out.
Oh no. Mostly looking around for souvenirs.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy and I and another friend, we looked up and there was see boxes of beer. We unloaded 3-2 beer. They're always double cases. And we tried to get some back and the MP stopped us and we couldn't get it, So after unloading it, and we had a guy there, his name was Earl Clausen. He come up and he had trip papers. And he took a stinking whole truckload of it. And I would say there was probably 500 goddamn boxes on there of beer. They stopped him. And he took off and hit the boonies. He got into the jungle. And I don't know if they had unloaded some, but the guys were drinking some of it. We tried to find it, and they told us, if you want beer, you got to go look in the boonies. So I looked over, and I seen 2 cases, what looked like 2 cases of beer that we've been unloading. So I sailed through it like a bat out of hell. I got in there, and boy, it was empty boxes.
Ah.
And all of a sudden, something hit me in the head. These stinking ticks. They're big monsters like that. I had them in the top of my head, and I was screaming and hollering. And Chuck Menzie, my other partner, he come flying in there, and I was tearing my hair out and the whole works. And I started running back, and he had 3 or 4 of them in his, and the other guys are laughing like blazes. They take off, they're running. I got back, and they had in the mess hall, they had a wooden barrel with salt in it. I grabbed a handful of salt and I put on my head, and it didn't do nothing. Not a thing. And this little sergeant, he was from a different company. He was smoking a cigar. He stuck those things on my head, and I could feel the ashes and things hit me. They backed them out, but it had lumps all over. Oh. Boy. And I went over to the dispensary, and the guy took I think it's scalpel. I don't remember, but I had blood all over my head, making sure the stuff was out of them, I got sunburned 2 days later, and I was ready to go to the moon. Boy, it hurt. Oh man, it hurt. I couldn't even put a hat on. Yeah.
All for a couple cases of beer.
And there was nothing there. Nothing.
your job when the ships came in, you unloaded them.
That's it. We've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drove the jitney.
I whatever it was they wanted, I was there to do it. I done in the hold and the whole works. Most of these 16-wheel trailers would come in and I'd have a dock jitney. That thing had fenders that thick and it was 7 miles an hour, wide open, you know. I could run faster than that, but that was bringing the stuff in.
How did you celebrate Christmas?
Everybody was going to get that was Roosevelt's. Everybody was going to get a turkey. And they started cooking and he brought it out and it was green. Oh, Lord. The Red Cross come in and they made some donuts for us with our own stuff and coffee. That was our Christmas.
Ouch. You longed for home.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin from CBS World News. President Roosevelt is dead.
There was different reactions. It's awful to lose a president, you know. And he was the leader of the army, you know. We thought that this was the end. We didn't know what was going to happen, you know. We kept moving, and everybody had the same thing. If we're moving, we must be winning. When we got ready to go into Lingayen Gulf, that was in the Philippines, whew, that was the scariest thing. We went on convoy. We got in a convoy, and we were in a convoy. I can't remember how many ships it was. And this B-25 come right over top of us, and the ball had not been captured. They left it. They bypassed it and lit us up. These big friggin' lights lit us right up. Boy, you could see the whole row of ships. We thought, oh, Lord, if they got artillery, we're done. Scared, oh, my God. Everybody was talking about jumping over, you know, and those Liberty ships, I think their top speed was about 7 miles an hour. They didn't move.
Right.
There was Victory ships were faster, but that, oh man. We worked there day and night in the sheriff in the water, bringing in supplies. Yeah, my buddy was pushing gas drums. We learned how to pick up a 50-gallon gas drum and stand it up on end. And he was running, can't help it. He was rolling one end of surf when the wave would come in. He'd push it up and he'd take it in, and you slam your feet down, you lean forward and stop. When it goes out, the wave would come back and shove you right to shore.
Oh,
once you got it on shore, you picked it up and stood it up. Now that sounds straight crazy, like I couldn't lift it today, but we stood them up on end, and they come in and guys took them out of there.
These are 55-gallon
drums. That's right.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah. We went to Tarlac. We got ready to go into Manila. That was scary. I got diphtheria there.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, I was in the hospital for paralyzed my whole left side. And I was the first one in, or the last one in, and the first one out. Schoolhouse that we were in was where the Japanese tortured the Filipinos and killed a lot of them. And when we were there, they captured the Japanese, and they took my weapon and Prosser's weapon and the CO's weapon and took this guy into a building, and I'll never forget it. Had 2 sandbags, and they tied him up with his thumbs. They started asking him questions, and they had just brought in a Filipino, and he had a bayonet stuck in his stomach, and they kept screaming, "Don't take it out, don't take it out." And He's all bent over and he's walking, staggering. And this little captain, he was supposed to be head of the resistance. He pulled it out, and the guy screams, and when he screamed, he died right there. They got this Japanese and they tied him up by the thumbs, and then they'd ask him questions, slap the living tar out of him, hit him with their fists and that, and then they'd take a bayonet and then they'd cut in the sand and let the sand go out and give him more, stretch him. And I said to Joe, what's going to happen if they use our weapons? You think they'll give them back? He said, how much did you pay for yours? So it was, we hated to see it, but we were glad to see it.
Right.
Yeah. I guess retribution, I think that's what we were thinking of, like revenge, I guess.
I assume that Japanese guy didn't make it, huh?
Oh, no. Yeah. No. The next thing we know, we seen him floating back and forth in the Pasig River. My brother had just come over, and he was in a replacement depot. And my mother had sent me an email, and she said he was my half-brother. And he said that Norman was in a replacement depot. So I went to the CO, and I asked him, could I go up to get a pass to go up to the replacement depot? He said, for what? I said, my brother's up there. I'd like to see him. He said, you can't go in that outfit. Go change your clothes and come back. Well, I got in. I didn't have any clean clothes. So as I went in, one of the guys in there was a sergeant. He said, here, I just got this shirt clean. Here, take that. So I took the I took his shirt and pants. And I come back in, and there was a pass on the desk. I just picked it up, and I hitchhiked a ride and got up there. And when I got up there, I went and I asked where the guy was. I didn't say I was his brother. I just asked his name, Norm Haskins. And they told me in tent something. So I went down there, and these guys were in there. And he said, what do you want? I said, I'm looking for Norm Haskins. Oh, he just took his clothes down to get them washed. Wait a minute. He's my brother. He said, why the hell did you tell me? He went back looking for you. God, Sarge. I said, I'm not a Sarge. He said, you got Sergeant Stripes on. I didn't even think of it, you know? Yeah. Holy mackerel. Yeah, I made Sergeant and lost him the same day. He was just leaving when I got there, and we stayed together for, I think it was 3 days.
The Japanese have accepted our terms fully. That's the word we've just received from the White House in Washington. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Second World War.
The night of August 17th in Manila, you received the first false flash of a Japanese surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Few of us who were in town that night will ever forget the riotous enthusiasm when the news was credited. How was that? What'd you do?
Oh, God almighty. You were giving beer free and everything else. We were going nuts, going just exuberant, waiting to go home. How fast are we going to go home? And when this thing actually stopped, you kept waiting for something to happen. No. What's next? Whether going home or what it was. And when I come home, it was in January 6th. I went home and my mother had a camp cot upstairs, and I went up there. I took the blanket off, and I went right out in the porch and slipped out in the stinking porch, and it was colder than blazes. I just couldn't get inside. They thought I was crazy. Probably was, I don't know.
Why was that? Why did you not want to sleep inside?
Tension.
Right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, tension. And it sounds crazy. I guess your nerves are wound up or something, and it seems to take forever to unwind. There was a guy on board ship, boy, believe me, and he had a cigar box, and he was betting everybody he'd be the first one off of the boat. I said, what are you talking about, you know? He said, I don't mean the guys that tie us up and pull you in or nothing. I mean, I'll be the first one off the boat. He said, guys are all giving him betting money that he wouldn't do it. That sucker stood up on there. In fact, I had $5 in it too. I wanted to win. Stood on the side of that ship. He stood up there and he's got his cigar box. He stuck it in his shirt and he said, see ya, boys, and jumped off of that sucker. And that was high.
Yeah.
That's like a 30-story building. It ain't that high, but I mean, that's the way it looked. He landed on and broke both of his legs. Laying and waving his hands like that. And the MPs come and got him, and they put him in a ambulance. And we never knew what happened after him, but he hadn't have to pay nobody. He was the first one off.
Oh my God.
And the water would have been different, you know?
Yeah.
I'll never forget. There was a pipe sticking out of the ground, probably that high. And smelled of it, and you could smell it stunk gasoline. And it seemed funny. And Jim West, he was a kid in our outfit, and he says, boy, I wonder what that is, an underground tank? Japanese? I don't know. Boy, I'll tell you. He said, bet you don't dare we throw stones down there and you glunk, 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 take quite a while. So I bet you don't dare throw a grenade down there. Well, I did. Oh, man, that sucker went up. That looked like a spaghetti. It come out of the ground, it went up in the air, and you could see these pieces going. It went out in the bay, thank God for that. And everybody come running, and the sand kept coming down. It looked like a sandstorm. We run out of there, and I'm over there, and the sergeant says, he didn't see me. He says to West, what happened? And Jim says, golly, I don't know. He said, I throwed a rock to hit that pipe. He said, didn't you know that was a gas drum full of gas or something? I don't know. He had some excuse, and Jim says, hey, Sarge. And then he spotted me, and he knew something besides that set it off. Yeah, I helped in Manila. There was a bank that the doors had been hit with shell or bombs. And we went in, and there was boxes of Japanese invasion money, boxes and boxes. And they were made out of, like, cedar. You could smell them. And there was a great big, like bars, iron bars, and you could see a safe inside. And I come down there, I started walking. I didn't go in where the water was, because it was clear up to the top of the combat boots. And I kept looking and looking, and guys were down there, and they were pushing me out of the way, and they were banging on this thing. And somebody got a piece of pipe, and they whammed it and broke that lock on that, and they opened it up, and they went up. And then the guys come down, and the first thing they were pounding with a piece of pipe, trying to knock the combination off and the handles off, and of course you couldn't do nothing with that. So somebody come in, and they had come back in the Jeep. I think they were a lieutenant or something. They were officers. And they put primer cord all the way around the edge, drove it in there, and then they said, back up, everybody. Well, I tried to back out the door, and I couldn't get it, and then boom, that stinking door went up in the air and fell down. That sewer was in there, splashed all over. Next thing I know, I'm grabbing money. It's paper money. I'm sticking it in my shoe just like everybody else, and I'm on my hands are the only thing free. I'm laying right in that muck. All of a sudden, we heard, everybody out. Put your hands on your head.
Oh my gosh.
I run behind those boxes. I stood there shaking so bad. I think I got my clothes dried just shaking. And they started coming out. I hear them shuffling through the water. And then two guys come down, and they had 45s, and the barrels looked that big around.
Oh my gosh.
And, okay, soldier, let's go. Got out there, and I opened up my shirt, and all the money was laying in front of these guys. And the money had Hawaii printed on them and the Philippines printed on them. And he said, this captain's walking back and forth. He said, if you guys had taken the silver coins in there, we wouldn't have bothered you. But the bills are no good. They got to be destroyed.
Oh my gosh.
So he hauled out and dumped it out, and then they said, the guy's coming up, and he's marking it out. I had $31,000. I had never seen $31,000. All I seen was laying on the ground. And he said, I thought, prison, here it comes. We're going to prison. He said, each of you guys are going back to your CO, and you're going to tell them what happened. And he said, it's up to you. And if we find out you did not go, you will be really court-martialed by us. So we went back. Boy, I had lead boots on. Every time I get close to the orderly room, my feet just wouldn't lift up to go in. Finally, I got my courage up, and I went in. I said, I'd like to see the CO. He's not here. What's it about? I said, never mind. I want to talk to the CO. He said, that's the sergeant. He said, I want to know what you want to see him about. I said, forget it. I went out of there, and I was goose pimples all over me, scared out of my wits. So I went down and I was smoking, and I seen the CO coming. So I went right up to him and I said, sir, I have make a confession. He said, and what would that be? I said, I helped rob a bank. He said, what? I said, I helped rob a bank. He said, well, Reardon, I'm going to make you happy. He says, get your gear together. And I, he heard something. We're moving out at the end of the day. We're moving out. We're going someplace else. He told me where. I don't remember. Whew, boy, I was sweating bullets, you know. And it was dropped. Nothing ever heard about it. And for a long, long time, I thought, something's going to happen. They're going to come and get me. Well, years afterwards, I read about a bank in Manila that was robbed, similar to what I'm talking about, and I often wondered if it was the same thing. Somebody made the story up. I don't know, but I often got a thing about that. What would have happened if I'd only taken a bag of silver and went the other way?
My gosh, now that's a heck of a story.
Oh, it's a story. China. So I found a 155 shell bag, and I just took some, I started packing it in there. So I pulled that off of the side so I could get it and take it back to camp with me. Well, that's where we headed. We ended up in Shanghai, China, and I pulled that bag out of my blue bag, and they had CNC and CRB, and this thing here was something. And when I turned it in, all that money I had was millions of dollars. I got $75 for it in China, in American money. I could have made more money if I could have brought it home, you know, a souvenir.
To get your beer, and because that was the commodity of choice, did you have to work with the harbor master or boat guys?
No, when we were supposed to be issued 4 cans a month of 3-2 beer, and it never happened. So when we unloaded a ship that had beer on it, a lot of it was going over the side, and guys were in there swimming, taking it up on shore. And Earl Clausen, like I told you about, he stole the whole stinking truckload of it. But he was passing it out before, he didn't go into the air, passing the thing out when they caught him. And he came back and he just said that they were going to, I can't remember what they were going to give him, something, which never happened. But I never got none of that beer. Not a nice thing to say. I thought it was all Roosevelt's doing afterwards. And I just thought if they take the senators and the congressmen that caused all this crap and send them over with guns and get it over with, we'd be better off, you know. Yeah. The war would be short and sweet.
This is great. Thank you for letting me pop into your house.
Well, I figured get it in, get it over with.
Well, you did a great job.